Tesla CEO Elon Musk recently traveled to China, and he returned with a tax break for the electric car maker. Musk met with China's transportation minister while visiting Tesla's new gigafactory being built in Shanghai. The announcement of the tax break came after that meeting, which pushed shares higher on Friday. Here to discuss Tesla and China's impact on the company, Colin Rusch, senior research analyst and managing director at Oppenheimer and Company, and Craig Irwin, senior research analyst at ROTH Capital Partners. Guys, good to have you with us. Colin, I'll start with you. This is good. It's the 10% tax that foreign vehicles face, but at the same time, China's going to increase auto tariffs overall in December. So this is a small offset, no? It's
a small victory short term for them in terms of some of the near term sales. I think it's a small boost. Ultimately, what they're doing is ramping capacity in China where they'll avoid all of these taxes. And that's really where they can see some real benefit from that relationship. And I think this is a nice to have, but and a small positive, but not a huge deal for them.
Does it look to you that the Model 3 production promised by the end of the year is going to happen?
It looks like they'll start, and we haven't expected them to have real volume. It's just, modest test runs. And we think they'll definitely get that this year. They're ramping on schedule. And next year is a really important year for them as they move into a year where they need to ramp and really show some of the operating leverage that they promised the street.
Mm-hmm. Craig, you've been bearish Tesla for a long time. So what are you going to say about this? This tax break that they're getting?
I got to give Elon credit, right? This is an environment where we're seeing U.S. and Chinese tariffs put in place left and right. And here he gets a reprieve from a 10% tax credit. Treatment very much like a domestic Chinese automaker. That's a big deal. So it might be, I agree that it's minor from a financial standpoint, but it shows that they're approaching things correctly. It also shows that there's, in the bigger picture, actually green light out there, a good potential outcome as we look for constructive ways to work with partners.
Does this make you a little bit more bullish on the Tesla story, knowing that his relationship in China looks, at least at this point, to be a pretty good one?
So, if you look at the longer term for China, the fact that they're going to be paying $323 million a year in taxes after 23, that shows they're looking at a fairly serious ramp in China. They're expecting a fairly serious ramp. He has done basically what he said he would do as far as sales of the S and the X and the 3. They might not have been at the trajectory he wanted, but we're going to see something similar in China. I think we're probably going to see some success with a couple 100,000 cars out over the next few years. And that would be a big deal. That would be positive, and it'll probably end up being their most important market.
You sound like you're getting more positive on Tesla. Are you?
Well, fundamentally this year, I think we need to see what happens with the Taycan. So the Porsche Taycan launches next Tuesday in Frankfurt at the Frankfurt Auto Show. There's already 20,000 announced orders there. You could really see Porsche do very much what it did with the Cayenne and then the Macan. So order numbers there doubled and doubled for a couple years. It could be very interesting.
Policy question for you. This is in the Wall Street Journal this morning. The op-ed, subsidize my electric car, please. As you know, for so very long, Elon Musk actually said that once the subsidies went away, it would actually help Tesla, hurt everybody else, because the 200,000 car limit, which was the tariffs, or not tariffs, but the subsidies roll off after 200,000 cars. Tesla's already had that, so has GM. Now they're asking for the next 400,000 cars, and Elon Musk has jumped on board for that subsidy. Does that make sense? And do you think we should be subsidizing these cars at this point?
I do. I mean, if we're going to facilitate a technology change in the auto industry, there needs to be some support.
The Journal would say this has been going on for 30 years, though.
And we're supporting innovation in all industries across sectors. So there's no real change to the policy there. What's happened, which is fascinating to me, is how slow the auto industry has been to actually invest in this sort of change and actually fulfill this. It's actually much harder.
Do you think there's something fundamental that's beyond just about either the technology itself or about the cost of
I think there's multiple reasons. One, the technology is harder than people give it credit for. Two, the cultural issues in these organizations in terms of innovating and actually needing to innovate. And then the fact that they're playing the field. They're hedging their bets with hybrids and other technologies, and so they're not committing. And Tesla's done one thing right in terms of committing to a single technology and going forward in that and kind of forcing themselves into innovating to survive. And even though that's hard short term sometimes, over the long term, I think it is going to pay dividends.
How much does demand increase? I mean, right now it's rolled off, right? So they reached 200,000, so it's half, and it'll halve at every milestone. What is the math on if we extended it by $7,000 per vehicle for the next 400,000.
I mean, for Tesla, it's just margin at this point. I mean, they really don't have serious competition right now from a product perspective. Consumers want the vehicles, and so for them to get this tax credit is just pure margin for them. And I don't think that makes that is a mistake for them.
Can I ask a question? You just said that there's no competition. There's no competition maybe if you're talking about straight EVs that are in this particular area, but that assumes that the buyer of a Tesla is doing it for all of these reasons.
EV.
And wants an EV, wants a high-end luxury EV,
Yep.
Sure, but that's...
High-end luxury is the hook. The only place
I think it's a mid-range luxury. It's not high-end luxury at this
point. Well, the only place I see the nice Teslas are really rich neighborhoods. I can't believe those people need
$45,000, $50,000. It's
no, the
$150,000.
Like, yes,
that market is already fading for them.
If you polled a Tesla owner today and said, did you buy this car because it was an EV, or did you buy this car because you just love the car, you love the handling,
luxury car,
all the other features, what percent would say it was because it was an EV? That, to me, is the fundamental question around Tesla.
I think it's a false question to try and separate it into both things.
Why?
I think they can buy it for multiple reasons. Like, they bought it because it's an EV and it was a cool car.
What should we not subsidize? Anyone's pie-in-the-sky idea of transitioning to what the future should look like? I don't understand. Should we subsidize Solyndra? Should we subsidize all wind power if it never becomes, why are you laughing at that?
Because we're subsidizing the oil industry as is. I mean, let's talk to you. I mean, what industry shouldn't we subsidize and what should we subsidize? I mean,
it's a good question. I mean, we can't subsidize everyone, just not the ones you like and think that are going to eventually help.
It's not just me. I'm saying we need to innovate in the economy and support that. And that is across industries.
Free market is pretty well innovating in general, though, doesn't it? Typically, does it do okay?
It's done, yeah, of course. But we're subsidizing industries in many
there
areas,
are
not
some
just
problems
electric.
when you subsidize. I mean, you can go over to Europe and look at certain energy that's been subsidized over there that shouldn't have been probably, and people are paying rates that are much higher than they should be.
To the earlier point, though, I mean, Colin, you yourself said that if we had a further subsidy, it would just mean gross margin for Tesla.
Without question at this point.
So because people already want the car. So then there's not a need. That's not a need for a subsidy.
It's not driving demand, but it is helping the automakers.
But if it's not driving demand, then you answer the question. If you poll a Tesla user, how much of it is about the EV component versus all the other factors?
None of it. I mean, people are buying the cars because they like the cars because Tesla's making great cars, and that's why I agree with Colin that basically this is just going to be something that helps Tesla on the margin. I personally hate subsidies, right? I don't like picking winners and losers, from a federal subsidy or a state subsidy. I think the right thing is to let the free market decide. And there's buyers for these cars, and that's the big deal is that there's buyers for EVs at a range of price points from 25 to 125 or 225, and this market is real and it's growing today, and we should let the market work.